Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another review, this time of set 75433, Jango Fett's Starship. Comes with 707 pieces, comes with 3 figures as well, Young Boba, Jango, and Lama Su. Retails for $70, so considering it came out this summer, alongside all the other price hikes and everything, it's fairly reasonably priced. Certainly when put in stark contrast against things like the Juggernaut or the Battle Pack or anything else that was just absurdly priced in comparison. Has a little, for some reason, 332nd clone trooper. That is a little weird to me. I guess this is their Attack of the Clones, or probably just their prequel branding, right, for the orange stripe. But it is a little funny. The 332nd clone just doesn't really fit at all, but it's not exactly that big a deal. There's Geonosis in the background with the asteroid field that they're flying through. Side shows the Slave One in just pretty much the same angle as the box art. And then the back shows off some of those features, like the fact that you can drop bombs from it, or also it comes with a stand so that it can be displayed in a nicer way than it just kind of lying down on a shelf. And then showing off, it landed on Camino with the figures going about. And then you open it up with the push tabs right there. Inside is 6 bags for all the pieces, and then a sticker sheet as well for some of those details. And then the back of the box shows off one of the most horribly priced Lego Star Wars waves in recent history. But at some point, at the very least, I will pick up the V19 and K2SO. So look forward to reviews for those at some point in the future. Nothing else, though, for this. But other than that, not going to be anything too crazy in here. So let's get the set built. All right, now that the set is built, let's take a look at the figures. First off, the most exciting one to me is Jango. He has that new rangefinder that was introduced in the UCS Jango Fett's Slave One, and it has been continued on. I believe it also came in maybe some of the clone sets, though I could be wrong. It did come in this one at least, and it is a definite upgrade over the last one. And then looking over him in total, he's a good looking Mandalorian figure. The Lego Mandalorian stuff always just looks really good. He's got the nice helmet and everything. Underneath, he's got 2 facial expressions, angry and, I don't know, passive. He does also come with a hairpiece as well. Might as well show that off now. So if you want Jango to be chilling without his helmet, he does just have a hairpiece. I do wish one of the facial expressions, I think, should have come with, like, unless I'm misremembering, during the movie he puts on like the little like flying stuff on his face. And I think that would have been a good secondary print, if you wanted him in the cockpit, be a little more accurate, I guess, to the movie. Would have been a fun detail for sure. And then he's got, the brown belt going across his armor. Like pretty much all other Mando figures in modern years, he's got the hip printing as well for that like groin armor. And then, the knee armor, jetpack on the back. And the 2 simple pistols. I feel like he's gotten for at least all his modern figures, which isn't too many, because I think before the Slave One UCS version, there hadn't been a Jango in like almost 10 years. Could be wrong on the time, but it had certainly been a while. But they work, anything that, other than a completely custom molded exact replica of his pistols, which would be way too much for Lego, that gets the point across of Jango's pistols for sure. Next up is Boba, and I think overall he's a good figure. I mean, simple, he's just got a little brown belt and then just a bunch of like little wrinkles in his shirt. The brown belt continues on the back, and mini legs never get any leg printing, but the hairpiece is definitely a strange one. That is something I agree with other people on. I don't think it works for how Boba's hair looked in the movie whatsoever. Weird choice by Lego. They definitely gave him better hairs in the past when they've done young Bobas. So weird choice to mix it up now and give what I think is a worse choice for hair. Does have two facial expressions though, a happier one and then just a serious looking one. So overall, mostly a good figure. But if I had some better hair, I would definitely swap it out. I don't think I do, but I definitely think the hair choice is a miss for sure on this figure. Lastly is Llama Sue. She looks very good. I have the other Kaminoan figure that they've done in the Obi-Wan Starfighter, and I think this one is just a little bit better than even that one. Looks very good. Got the skirt piece with the little purple detailing down it with a little bit of white. Other than that, nothing crazy on that. And then just some real good printing to get the whole Kaminoan outfit continuing on. And then just like that full headpiece. I think looks really good with the high collar and like the fringed head and everything. All just looks really good in my opinion. Better than even, like I said, that last Kaminoan they did 3 years ago now, if I'm remembering right. But moving on to the actual set. As someone who did have the Boba Slave one from a few years ago, 2021 I think, for when Mandalorian had it, and it was a Mando themed one, I think this is a definite upgrade. It is more or less the same model in a lot of ways. Obviously it's the same ship, just, you know, 20, 30 years down the line between the two, you know, in terms of color scheme and everything. But it definitely has a couple of like internal upgrades that help it out. So firstly, one I noticed right away, once I finally finished the set, the stand is built a lot better. It is a lot more stable. I disassembled my Boba Slave one just because, you know, it was missing a couple pieces, and, you know, I'd been shoved away in the closet anyway, so I just kind of wanted to free up space, and, you know, it was kind of awkward and taking up space. So I disassembled it, but, you know, I had it for 3-4 years, and I mean, my most hated thing was I had loved that it came with a stand just like this one to display it. I think it's just like a really neat thing that they've done in both of these now, so that, you know, you don't just have to lay it down flat. You know, it's more dynamic, it looks better on display. And, you know, from a point of view for kids, I think, you know, it's an added little play feature, you know, a little cart. But this one is a lot more sturdy. Obviously, shake it hard enough, it's still gonna fall out, but I think like this level of shaking, which is not that crazy, because obviously I'm just doing kind of a reasonable amount of, you know, nudging a bookshelf. If I did this with the old holder, it's falling over. It's falling off because the old one it didn't split. So it was just one pillar right underneath one little piece, and it held up like crap. So this one being split offers so much more stability, and it is such a nice like quality of life change. If I ever like rebuilt the Boba Slave one at some point, you know, I had more space and I felt like rebuilding it, I would definitely like copy this cart design to put it on, and just probably do the necessary modifications potentially to have the Bobas accept it. It's just really so much nicer. Makes it a hell of a lot more stable. The other little thing is they made it so that now those move simultaneously, just like, you know, in the movies. So that is a nice little change. I don't quite understand the technique of how it's done versus how the Boba's one was done, but whatever changes were made, it's nice. You know, they now rotate exactly the same, which is good, because that was the other thing about that Boba's, was you really had to, you know, finagle with it to actually get them to be matched up and actually look good. But then for the actual Slave one, you know, it's got the stud shooters on the bottom, exact same as the older one. These right here I think are meant to represent the actual, or the other guns that would be on the ship, because it does have guns down here that swivel in the movies, if I'm remembering. Really nice build. You know, it's very sturdy as well, obviously. You can hold it by that, and that's not going anywhere. The cockpit, I believe, is able to hold 2 people. I've not tested it out with putting guys in there, but I believe I've seen that it can hold both Boba and Jango. So that is also a good change to ensure you can have both of them in there for that, which is good. They're really nice big pieces here to get those detailing. The back, got the engines, nothing too crazy. Obviously, Lego never really details the back of sets. It's just extra pieces. It does have the handle as well. I think pull it out and, you know, swoosh it around easier in flight, which The Boba's one, again, also had, I don't know, I'm making a lot of comparisons, but it is genuinely more or less the same model, minus a few changes, like I said. And then lastly, the one last change is this one. Instead of having the guy in carbonite you can put into the cargo hold, you flip that up, and there is a seismic charge in there, which is what I was struggling to remember the name of in the intro. But then you've got the launcher right here, which obviously blends in pretty simply. It's part of the ship, but you just push down hard enough, and it launches down, releases that, and then push it in, pull it back, and it's good to go for another launch. Pretty simple. Pops down. So definitely a fun little feature to have the seismic charge drop. Though I will say it does kind of go all sorts of places when you do launch it, so that can be a bit of a pain. You know, you got to watch out for that, you know, where you're launching the seismic charge from. But definitely a fun feature for the set to have. Overall, very good set. One of the only positive notes for the 2025 like fall line of Lego, the only other couple being, I think the gingerbread AT-AT was pretty good, or at least looks pretty good, and the V19 Torrent I think would be my only other two that I would praise positively as pretty good sets, at least going off looks. And obviously having this one in person, $70 maybe is too much, because I think, if I'm remembering, I feel like Boba's was 50 back in the day, maybe 60. So I don't know, it is, I think, worthwhile in my opinion, and it's in consideration of the other sets and their pricing, it's a steal essentially, really. Obviously not, but you know, it's still $70. But if you think that's not worth it, you can always wait for a sale. That is all I have for this one. You want to see more Lego content, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, do all that. I'll see you in the next one.